interestingly, at Boston Children's, their list of donors, they are funded mostly by donations, right? One of their largest donors is the Walt Disney Company. LOL. Yeah, well, their ideology aligns. But here's the thing. It's not just the direct donations to this specific gender clinic. As I said at the beginning, there has to be a coordinated effort to disseminate this throughout the medical community because it wouldn't just organically catch fire. And we've seen how money plays into the bigger picture of how gender ideology is disseminated. Planned Parenthood, for example, funds and conducts sex education in public schools. This is where they indoctrinate youth in the transgender ideology, and then they profit by selling gender transing hormone therapy to young people after they've indoctrinated. And we see that profit loop. That's how it was disseminated in education. We've seen big pharma profit off of hormone therapy and surgical transitions, over $1 million of profit for everyone who undergoes a transition. But what about these med schools? What about these institutions like Boston Children's Hospital? The answer to that is a family called the Pritzkers. You've probably heard of them. J.B. Pritzker is the governor of Illinois. He's a very close pal of Barack Obama. In fact, the Pritzkers are one of the richest families in the entire United States. They fly under the radar a little bit, even though they are also active in politics. The Pritzkers' money was an enormous contributing factor in the election of Barack Obama. Very, very powerful people behind the scenes. They're rich because they're actually the heirs to the Hyatt hotel chain. That kind of rich. We're talking about mega billions rich. You also might remember in the Obama administration, the Secretary of Commerce, Penny Pritzker, yes, she's part of that same family. And you know how that always works. If a billionaire family gives money to help a candidate become elected as president, then a family member oftentimes gets a cushy role at a secretary level in that administration for influence. That's what's happening here. So the Pritzkers have used their money to build an apparatus that forces queer theory onto medicine, into med schools specifically, to train the new generation of doctors, but also, oftentimes these gender clinics are associated with hospitals that are associated with med schools. So it's this interconnected net of academic institutions where these ideas fester that are then disseminated into not only the doctors and nurses who are being trained by these medical schools, but also to the hospitals that rely on the donations from the very wealthy families to operate their hospital. And they can't push back on the ideology that comes with the money or else they'll lose the money. So the Pritzkers specifically, they make these enormous donations to hospitals and medical schools around the country. They actually have hospitals and medical schools that are named after them. So they are the largest primary donors. They are the lifeblood of these hospitals. They are given in return, they're given titles at the hospital, positions at the hospital, like figurehead type positions, but positions of influence because they control the purse strings. And suddenly these institutions begin propagating the transing of children. And then it spreads because the institutions that have been co-opted are leading institutions. What happens first at the University of Chicago Medical School is disseminated around the country because the University of Chicago Medical School is the hub of academic research in med school. So the Pritzkers, and this is not hypothetical, the University of Chicago School of Medicine, the Pritzkers gave $12 million to back in 1968, which is a lot of money now, is a real lot of money back then. But fast forward to 2002, the Pritzkers gave $30 million to the University of Chicago School of Medicine. This School of Medicine is now named after the Pritzkers. This School of Medicine, let me bring up the University of Chicago School of Medicine. Gender affirmation surgery. This is what they do at the University of Chicago. The University of Chicago Medicine is committed to providing the best possible care to transgender and gender nonconforming patients. We aim to align your identity with your physical characteristics by offering a full range of gender affirmation surgeries to help you achieve harmony. The University of Chicago Medicine plastic surgeon, Lawrence Gottlieb, is internationally renowned for pioneering and perfecting phalloplasty techniques that are commonly used today. He has more than 30 years of experience performing these procedures. Our surgeons work as part of a multidisciplinary team of specialists in transgender care. We perform both bottom and top surgeries for transgender and gender nonconforming patients, including transmasculine and transfeminine procedures. Blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The University of Chicago School of Medicine treats patients. Well, treats patients might be the wrong phrase here. They inflict these surgeries on young people who are suffering from gender dysphoria. And this is largely funded by the Pritzkers. This is named after the Pritzkers. Similarly, at the University of California in Los Angeles, at the Ronald Reagan Medical Center, it doesn't bear the name of the Pritzkers, but it does do the work of the Pritzkers. In 2008, the Pritzkers gave tons and tons of money to this. This is one of the institutions where they hold various titles. The Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology started advertising to young women how they can go through transing surgery to, quote unquote, become men. They call this gender affirming care. These are two examples. So J.B. Pritzker is the governor of Illinois. He has a cousin who goes by Jennifer Pritzker, but Jennifer Pritzker was not born Jennifer Pritzker. Jennifer Pritzker was born James Pritzker. James Pritzker was a colonel in the Illinois Army National Guard, married, had 3 children, and then halfway through his life, he decided to trans and live as a woman called Jennifer. Jennifer Pritzker gives an enormous amount of money to medical schools and hospitals and institutions across the nation who invariably, upon acceptance of this money, start pushing the transing of young people. Jennifer Pritzker founded an organization called the Tawani Foundation, which has given money to Howard Brown Health, Rush Memorial Medical Center in Chicago, the University of Arkansas Medical Science Foundation Fund, the University of Minnesota's Institute for Sexual and Gender Health, after which each and every one of these institutions started to advertise, quote unquote, gender care. Gender creative children is what these websites describe young people who they are trying to get as clients. The Pritzkers also gave money to the University of Minnesota National Center for Gender Spectrum Health. This is an organization that shows the ideology of Jennifer Pritzker and the Pritzker family, because this institution rejects the idea that gender and sex are the same thing, which they are. You and I know that they are. This organization posits that gender is not only a spectrum, it's fluid, and that you are what you feel. Then we come back to this GEMS clinic at Boston Children's Hospital. The GEMS clinic is the first, this is how they describe themselves on their website, the first major program in the US to focus on gender diverse and transgender adolescents. Since that time of their founding in 2007, we've expanded our program to welcome patients from ages 3 to 5. The first clinic of that type in the Midwest, it's called the Gender and Sex Development Program at Lurie's Children's Hospital. This opened in Chicago with a $1 million gift from the Pritzkers. This, by the way, doesn't even include, this is just how the Pritzkers have built this apparatus where they take their enormous amounts of money and they give it to hospitals and medical schools and gender clinics. And they essentially buy them off, right? If you give this amount of money, then these places aren't going to question what you tell them to do, or else they will risk losing the money. That's why there's no dissenters. That's why there's no whistleblowers. This money comes with strings attached. This is how they've infiltrated the medical industry, hospitals, and medical schools. But this doesn't even include how they've infiltrated the educational institutions, how they've infiltrated politics. J.B. Pritzker signed bills into law mandating radical sex ed in school. I'm talking radical gender theory being indoctrinated in little kids. The Pritzkers have given $25 million for early childhood education endeavors, which is how they've infiltrated education. They give money to med schools who risk losing the money if they don't surrender the science to this ideology. And it's all right here. You just have to look for it. This is what I found. The only question that I still have is, why are these people doing this?